We just hit 6:30. So at this point, I'm going to call to order. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So those panelists, if you could unmute. Okay. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Next item on the agenda is public comment. So I will open up the meeting for public comment at this time. Just as a reminder, it's been a little while for everybody. If you are interested in speaking, please raise your hand and Devin can go ahead and unmute you. And just so that we know that you would like to speak.
All right, I believe Jay Tullin's raising his hand and should be able to speak.
Right. Hi, Jay.
Devin, he might be that phone number.
Yeah, I am.
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
before I start, can you guys hear me?
We can now,
Yes, we
Jay.
can.
We're good.
Okay, that phone number is me, 514-2053. So I just wanted to make Jay Toolin, 39 Timberline Drive. You guys probably know my address, but I'm actually speaking on behalf of the Human Relations Commission tonight. Very happy that you're off of pause and that the project's going to be moving forward. Although you guys never really went away, you met a little less regularly than you did, but you never really went away. But we're very happy that you came off pause. I just want to make a few comments. The Human Relations Commission, and it should be no surprise to you, it's our intention to kind of pick up where we left off with our advocacy on behalf of ADA compliance and, more importantly, universal design. In particular, and I believe this is on your radar already, but I just want to kind of remind or reiterate our support for the notion of the third-party accessibility consultant. I know this is just your first meeting since you came off pause, so that might be a little bit premature, but it is in our mind that this is an important part of the process moving forward. And just urge you, when the time is right, to consider, the third-party accessibility consultant as part of the process with this project moving forward. That's all I have to say. I appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. No, it looks like we're good there. Just a quick reminder too, as we leave public comment, to let people know we do have the online form as well to contact us via our websites. There's also another option if you're not able to attend the meeting and speak with us. Please feel free to add questions, comments to that online form. Those get to us as well. So next item on the agenda is minutes. So can I get a motion to approve the attached November 11th, 2020 minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of November 11th, 2020. This is Sharon.
Second, Chris.
All right, discussion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimously approved. Okay, also included in the agenda packet was a correspondence that we received from 11/11 to 1/11. So included in that packet was a note from Jay. I believe that was more in reference to the overall status of the building committee being on pause. So we actually have some additional news on that, which is nice. And in addition, Kathy was able to forward on to us a letter to the Office of Civil Rights, or from them, excuse me, and really good reading for us and a good understanding. I don't know, Kathy, if you want to provide any context around that or anything else, or it kind of speaks for itself.
Hi, this is Kathy Greeter. So we do receive a request from the state to provide status on where we are given
Hey, Kathy, you're super quiet.
Oh, I'm super quiet.
She is for me. Is that the same for everybody?
Same for me. Yes.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
highly unusual.
Meaning in volume. You're very
Your
quiet.
computer.
Oh, now we don't hear you at all. Oh, no.
Let me look.
You must have wore it out. I think you've used it too much, probably.
I could speak to it a little bit.
All right, Alicia, that'd be great. Thank you.
Sure. So it's a part of our compliance with the state that we provide an update on how we are making progress towards some of the deficiencies that they have identified in the past. And so we're responsible for providing an update. And of course, our update this year was one that said we are still in a holding pattern and haven't made much progress with this. So that was, again, we have an accountability to OCR to be able to tell them the progress that we're making towards accessibility.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. I think, it's really good, I think, reading for everybody just to kind of get a good understanding of those conversations and what's happening and responses. So even beyond the committee, those attending with us tonight or those watching us on Facebook as well this evening, if you have an opportunity to go in there and read that, I think it's just really good information for everybody and to put all the work we're doing kind of in context as well. All right, perfect. So we're going to move right on to the next agenda item, which is reports. The very first report out we have tonight, I'm going to throw it right to Chris Fagan first as Town Council Liaison report, just to get an update on the meeting last night for Town Council.
Can I get away with saying no report?
not
All right, great news, everybody. I'm glad to report in first that we did meet last night, and just to reassure everybody that statements I did make over the past few months while we're on pause, that the town council remains absolutely committed to this project. The project was taken off pause last night unanimously with no discussion. It was everybody's obviously in favor of this and taking it off pause. And Meg, I'll probably let you talk a little bit more about this, but I issue a certain admonition to everybody that we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and get going on this, because it is our goal at the town council. And as part of last night's meeting, we added a special meeting in February 16th, and I'll back up but our intention is at the town council that this committee will appear before us in 2 weeks at our January 26th meeting to present schematic design, drawing, and project cost estimates. And then the special meeting in February was to review the results of the committee with regard to the efforts of Tall Timbers, and then with the goal of moving this forward to referendum. So that said, we have an aggressive schedule. It's off pause, and we want to push this forward, to referendum. So I'm glad to report that, and look forward to, as I said, just rolling up our sleeves. And I'll let Meg, we can talk about scheduling. Let you take pushing us along on that front. But the goal is from the town council that we're off pause, and let's move forward with great speed and haste. Also last night, to report in, we unanimously approved the creation of a tax relief subcommittee that will consist of Councilmember Brian Conley, myself, and Joe Swetke, the Director of Finance Administration for the town. And that's to, look at, review tax relief for elderly homeowners, volunteer firefighters, and qualifying veterans and surviving spouses, to determine whether there's any need to change our tax codes or town ordinance with regard to that. So that's going to be proceeding in lockstep with this, taking it off pause. So, the inference will be, let's move forward. So glad to report all that.
Excellent. Before I kind of give any kind of clarification on that, anybody have any questions for Chris or thoughts, comments from the committee? Okay. Yeah, Chris, we'll go into more detail on timing and kind of, we're going to take a snapshot of the timeline from now until that mid-February date. Again, we've done so much work up until this point. I think we're ready. We're all excited. We're ready to move all this forward. So, this is kind of a exciting day for us moving into 2021 as a committee. And just kind of ready to hit the ground running and move forward. And we're going to talk more about those details as we move through the reports and into some of the items in new business as well.
Yeah, and I would just add, Meg, I mean, with dates and, that this may come across as aggressive, but obviously the intention is to move this forward. And like everything else we deal with in life, it's a dynamic, fluid situation. It's, so we'll work together as a committee with the council. But, I think the takeaway is that, let's go. We're ready to go.
Yep, excellent. And I think that partnership has really made a difference with town council and board of ed and the building committee, all just kind of staying on course and making some smart decisions and having some really thorough conversations along the way. So I think if we keep doing that, we're going to end up in a good place. Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that update. That really kind of sets us up for some of our next reports. So I'm going to move right into my chair report. I've got a few items that I want to cover. It's not going to be much tonight because I think we have some details to go through. But first, just kind of a statement to level set for the committee overall. And just to kind of give people a tiny bit of background. Obviously, I think everybody, the committee that is on the committee, as well as the people that are attending with us tonight, have a good understanding of where we've been, but just to give us a little bit of a recap. So this new year is upon us, and I wanted to update everyone about the proposed high school project. So as with other Connecticut cities and towns, COVID-19 has been disruptive and difficult for our community. Despite the challenges of 2020, our committee has been working diligently to assess and recommend options for the high school. The Farmington High School Building Committee was established by the Farmington Town Council on March 26, 2019, if we can all remember back then. The committee includes community members, elected officials, and administration and staff members from the town of Farmington and the Farmington Public Schools. So all those partners working together. It's really been two phases that we've talked about all along. Phase one was really evaluating the conceptual design options from multiple architects, which was new to the process, to provide the town council with the information they needed to set the net municipal project cost range and overall project scope. We successfully completed that task last year. It was about a year ago, and the Farmington Town Council has recommended and approved the option to build a new high school. So that's kind of where we left off in this process. Phase two, design a comprehensive solution to address the Board of Education statement of needs that falls within the net municipal cost range and overall project scope set by town council. That was putting more detail behind the recommendation. Our status, really, we're in process there. So on May 12th, 2020, the town council placed the building committee on pause due to the economic conditions and uncertainties from COVID-19. And as we just learned from Chris, we were recently, as of yesterday, removed from pause, which allows us to continue our work in accordance with the committee charge and begin regular communications with Farmington residents. So that will be, as it has been, a major priority for us is communication. Coming off pause has really allowed us now to expand that communication. One of the things you're going to see is a newsletter that the subcommittee has been working on, and included in that newsletter is also a survey that we ask everybody who receives the newsletter to complete, and you'll get more details about that, but something to keep in mind, that's going to go to every household in the town of Farmington. So we want to hear people's voices. We want to hear what they have to say. We want to hear about what information they need to make an informed decision. Special town council meeting will be held in February, as Chris mentioned, where the analysis of the community survey results will be presented. to town council. And during this meeting, we anticipate setting a time frame for the referendum. So Chris just mentioned that's kind of the path we're going for. So this next month is really now reorienting everybody with schematic design and getting as much information out to the Board of Ed, making sure they have everything they need, as well as town council, to really move forward toward that referendum date. So in the upcoming months, you'll receive another newsletter in your mailbox that will report results of the community survey, project timelines, construction cost estimates, and tax impact details. So we will continue to build on the level of detail. This first newsletter you're going to receive is really level setting, questions and answers, and really making sure people really understand where we are today. And then future newsletters are really going to build upon that. We, as a building committee, just want to make sure all Farmington residents have all the information you require to make an informed decision once a referendum date is set. So we will continue to reach out to you regularly with updates in your mailboxes, in your email boxes, on social media, through these meetings. So please, we ask everybody to stay engaged, learn, find out facts, go to the website. That's the main source of information, and just continue to ask questions of us if something's not clear. So really important part of our process, just a very quick level set on where we are and kind of next steps. And again, we'll get more into that once we talk about communications as in the next update. The next thing I wanted to do was introduce a new member of our team. You've heard so much about Tall Timbers for a long time, but we do have Ira Yellen, I believe, on the line with us. Ira, you're not showing my boxes, but I think
you do.
Yep, there you are. So as soon as you talk, you come up. So Ira's here with us. I'm going to give him a second just to kind of introduce himself very quickly, but he has joined our team as part of Tall Timbers marketing, helping us with these communications efforts, initiatives, and making sure we have a really good, strong message and have all the information that the community needs. So Ira, if you want to just do a quick introduction for us.
A lot of you look familiar, so it's good seeing you again. It's always, people you work with, and all I can say is about having Zoom around, it's become like a second family. I'm sure all of you kind of feel that way. At least I don't have to wear makeup. Anyway, thank you. Yeah, we're in the process right now, finishing this newsletter. It's being printed right now, and it'll be sent to 11,500 households. And the survey is, it's a survey, it's 2 pages, and it's geared towards where people understand kind of where we are, what they want to know going forward, and how they want to receive information. This was not designed to ask them, will they support or not support the project? This is creating a baseline so the subcommittee and the building committee will be able to address in almost real time what some of the concerns or issues. So residents will feel that this can be more open and transparent. We want to make an emphasis too, because there might be social media being posted, that this website that you have is the official voice of the committee. And so when people want to go, we had to make that right up front. So if they want to get information, this is where it's going to be. And I know I'm working with Devin on this and the subcommittee, and then making sure whatever is being updated. So in a sense, it's going to act like a newspaper, a town newspaper regarding this project. So when the survey comes back, we're going to evaluate it, look at it, and then provide some recommendations about the communication aspects. I think it's the 16th of February to the town council, give them the results, the finding. We're estimating between 500 and 1,000 surveys will come back. That's statistically normally what it is, and with a very small error margin that can be used as factual information. So that's pretty much where we are. And in terms of social media, whatever's necessary in terms of Facebook is always redirecting back to the website. We don't want people scattering all over and getting misinformation. It's been my experience of doing this for many years. Misinformation is kind of the boogeyman of doing these kinds of projects. So I think laying that groundwork and getting this out, at least it's letting every household know that this is where we are, and this is where you should go get information, and then reinforce it. And I'm sure there'll be meetings in which you can go forward and talk about it. And I know I'm working with the architect and Richard's online. We're going to get some very strong visual language when everything's approved, so people can understand why why this project is important to do, and why it's necessary going forward, that the community should take a really serious interest in their recommendation from the building committee and support.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Ira. Any questions for Ira right now? Anything else, Cap, from a communication subcommittee report perspective you want to add to that, or?
No, I think that kind of covers the majority of it. I know that Devin and Kara from TSKP have been working very, very hard on the website. They're meeting, at least once a week for the past couple of months. So they've really been focusing their efforts there so that, when the newsletter goes out and people have the reference to go to the website, it has all the information that's easily accessible, so they can learn about the project to gather the information themselves. So thank you to Devin and Kara for that. And then another big project we've been working on is a side-by-side project that kind of outlines and illustrates the existing current problems at the existing facility and what the proposed solutions in the new building are. So that kind of ties into the statement of needs, but gives a real visual for what the issues are and how the new solution, the new building is the solution. So the newsletter's been a big focus, and we're just kind of plugging along with the communication plan that Ira has laid out for us.
Excellent. Any questions around communications at this point from anybody?
I had one. This is Beth.
Oh, hey, Beth.
So I kind of lost track of what we were doing with social media, and I'm on that subcommittee, but during the pause, we were focused on some other things. So where do we stand with social media right now? Has that been kind of, have we done anything with it yet, or is that just down the road?
I mean, Ira, you can talk about what your plan is. We continue to have, Beth, the Facebook, we have the Twitter account, we have an Instagram. I think they'll just work, to as another avenue to get our message out. Ira, feel free to jump in on that.
Yeah, it's Facebook or any of those social media is going to be more based upon what kind of current activities. So if there's presentations, things, reminding people might come to, one of your meetings. It's more kind of immediate, and then the constant reminder of going to the website for updated information. So if there's major updates and people subscribe to it, because I don't know, we have to look and see how many subscribers are to it now, Kat. I don't know how many you have on. There's probably been, all the pause, there's probably not a lot of people on it. But,
we retain a pretty large, I haven't checked in a while, to be honest. I can look at their numbers and report back at the next meeting, but I believe we had a couple hundred following our Facebook page. So not a bad number of people. And we also have a distribution group where we send out updates, like the chair report after each meeting.
Yeah, so what you don't want to have is a lot of sub meetings. That if this is the official meeting every week of the building committee to encourage people to come here and learn about it. It could do highlights from the meeting, things that have occurred, and use Facebook that way. Because otherwise, in talking to Devin and to Kat about it, you're going to have to look at it every day and respond back, because it can't be, social media can't be static. Someone's going to do an inquiry, or what we're going to do is drive people to certain information. So anyone subscribes to it, we're not going to post a survey. We'll do links to the newsletter. Because of the nature of the survey, it has to go to every household in paper. So we don't want multiple surveys coming back digitally, at least not at this point. And so I think it's a work in progress, and you have to decide how much resources and time you want to do to make it a very kind of interactive daily activity. And I think that should be worked out. And I think once we get the results of the survey, we ask a question on there about social media as the importance of getting information. So Beth, we'll know based on the survey how many people want to be really engaged in some of the social media activities.
Right. I guess my basic question was, now that we're off pause, will that be announced on social media? Are we holding back on that until we have a little more information, or, is that something that will go out?
Yeah,
that
Beth,
way?
we share the chair report that we send out to everybody on after each meeting also gets posted on the Facebook page and the Twitter page automatically. So that
It must have dropped. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not seeing that. It's probably, you know, the algorithm, it drops off my
it drops
feed.
off. I mean, we
Okay.
definitely have not been as active throughout the pause because again, there's not
Sure.
enough information to push out, but definitely something that we're going to be utilizing.
Okay. And then those of us who are on the committee, I think who are on social media, if we can maybe reshare, you know, let people know, kind of get it back on people's news feeds and so they're seeing it.
Well, Beth, it could be used to, once this, a newsletter goes out, is just remind people to fill out the survey. That's an active thing you can ask them to do. You can do it on Twitter, but which was the first thing I was going to recommend. You know, the more we get back, the better kind of cross section we get. So we could use it kind of the town crier approach.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Okay, I'm going to get back active with that and keep an eye on it and share it as appropriate. Thank you.
Great,
Hi, this is Ellen. Have we thought about doing a press release? Might be helpful. That we're off pause, doing a press release, we're off pause.
Well, it's not a bad idea. You know, you can post it up on the website, send a I mean, all the media around here, you don't even mail them anymore. You just do it digitally. And, you know, I think send them a link, you know, to the newsletter and take the survey off. And I think, Ellen, it's not a bad idea, to be quite honest, to let them know. Or you want to wait to the 16th. It's either way. The only way it works if this is a news feature. So if going off pause is news, then it does require press, or would think about getting a press release out. So we might want to look at these milestone dates and think about getting media, because media is very thin right now. In fact, in the whole state of Connecticut, dealing with these kinds of things, we have boiled it down to 16 reporters. There used to be 120. So it's you know, what it is that whatever you write, they'll post it up on their website, but not necessarily put it in the newspaper.
Sarah, why don't we talk about that?
Yeah.
Because the only reason why I would even hesitate, Ellen, would be the close relationship between coming off pause and announcing a referendum date. You know what I mean? We're talking about like a month's time frame in there. So I don't know. I mean, they might pick up both. I don't know. Or we might have to make a decision between one or the other.
Meg, I mean, at the town council meeting, do they, is any of the media there at all? They would probably write this up if they officially get off pause. It's just something they would feature. Unfortunately, they're not featuring a lot of town news right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you that Ted Glanzer was in our meeting last night.
Okay.
And he probably would write about it. Yeah.
He'd probably write about it. He would do something about it because
Yeah,
he was in our meeting last night. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else around communications at this point? Thoughts, conversation? All right, excellent. We'll move right into report number 4. That's Board of Education Liaison report. Beth, anything in particular you would like to share?
I don't have very much, but the board did meet this week, so we were able to update everyone, the members, that the project was being taken off pause. So everyone's thrilled and excited about that. We have started our budget process, and that's where we are. Unfortunately, part of our capital presentation on Monday did involve a small necessary roof project at the high school. One of those consequences of doing nothing or the postponing of the project, but that's it.
Yep, it's still a reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's it from the board.
Any questions for Beth? All right, financial report, Kat.
Nothing new to report for that. We haven't had any expenses since our last meeting in November. Now that we are off pause, I will anticipate more expenses and invoices from our partners now that we're moving forward. So more to come on that in future meetings.
Any questions for Kat? All right, we'll go right into report number 6, state legislative update. Mark or Chris?
Really no new fronts on the state or legislative slide. So nothing new to report there. Status quo.
All right, any questions? All right, we're going to go right into number 7, which we have labeled as industry update. This is when we hear, or we normally have been hearing from TSKP. We're going to do that same thing tonight with more of a focus on kind of the schematic design review. That information was provided in the agenda packet, and this should be a document that everybody's familiar with at this point. But I'm going to pass this over to Richard just to kind of walk us through the schematic design review and provide.
Oops, I think we lost Meg.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, it was just a momentary glitch. Yeah. Okay. So you're back. Yes. Good. You passed the baton to me. So
yes.
Right. So you have on the agenda industry update, which I will incorporate into the schematic design update. During the pause, when we've met with the committee, I have updated the committee on what's been going on in the industry from my perspective. I did whether or not COVID-19 has had an impact on cost, and bid results that we have received have actually been quite favorable. Question is, how long will that last? So I tried to incorporate that information into the updated schematic design to make it a formal part of the report that we can pass on to the town council. You'll find that on page 30, but you don't have to flip there yet. I will get to it. So tonight, I do want to give you a recap on the schematic design report. It's been a long time since you looked at it. We did do an update on it, and I know the intention is to take this. I believe the intention is to approve the schematic design and forward it to the town council. So that may be an action item, I'm not sure. But if it is, you will want to present it to the town council, and I'm going to make some suggestions that you submit this to the town council and make some recommendations as well with regard to the project. One is, I think you should suggest to the town council that they reconsider its charge to reduce the cost to the town. And I will explain that as I go through the schematic design. But remember that the town council charged this building committee to reduce the net cost of the town to a range between 105 million and 110 million. Another recommendation I would think you would want to accompany the schematic design report to the town council is that they consider adding some additional referendum questions. So in addition to the primary referendum question, which is, should the town build a new high school? Other referendum questions could be, should we mothball or renovate the 1928 building? That was a subject of quite a bit of discussion last year. Another is whether or not energy saving measures should be added to the project. We'll talk about that in a moment. And the third additional referendum question could be, should we add Route 4 improvements to the project? So if you could allow me to share my screen, Devin, what I can do is take us through the schematic design report, which you can see here. This is the first page. And if you go through this report and jump to, oops, sorry about that. jump to page 8, you'll see this aerial photo, and this has the components that are near and dear to you all. I'm sure you remember the things like the 1928 building, which is an important factor. What happens to that? The fact that we're saving the 900 wing. This is a portion of the existing building. Remember, we looked at whether it's possible to salvage a portion of this building. After all, the most recent wing is the 900 wing. The existing football field, the existing tennis courts, and Route 4 down below, and Monteith Drive are all factors in this report. Site design, just as a reminder, we looked at different locations on the site for the placement of the footprint of the new building. We can't build on the footprint of the existing building, which is located right here. I think that may have been one of the flaws in the previous studies. It presents all sorts of phasing complications. The safest way to build a new building on this site, and we have looked at other sites, but those were eliminated. The safest way to build a new building on this site is to place it somewhere else on the site, away from the existing footprint, move the students into the new facility, and then demolish the old building. So there were really only two realistic locations. One, placing the footprint of the new building on the football field, or alternatively, placing the new footprint of the building on the eastern side of the site. And this is the direction we chose. That was the one that is the safest bet. We don't have to completely redo the football field if we were to place the footprint on the existing football field. I think there are too many negatives with placing a new football field adjacent to the property line, not too far from the neighbors. And you remember this diagram that showed the football field next to the neighbors. The location of field illumination would be a serious distraction, as well as the noise adjacent to the football field. So keeping the football field where it is further away, which is up here on this plateau, and placing a new building closer to the neighbors actually provides a better insulator for noise and lighting by placing this building and placing the quiet activities in the building facing the neighbors. You remember we built three-dimensional models. This is a study model. Again, this shows the mass of the existing, or the proposed buildings and the 900 wing, the relative sizes, as well as the 1928 building. Okay, if we jump to this page, and we should dwell on this a little bit because there are some important elements here. Remember the configuration of the parking and the circulation of traffic around the building. The main entrance is here on the southern side of the new building that leads right into the main atrium into the building. There's a secondary entrance on the back side. The back parking lot would be for faculty and people using the building from that side. The after hours entrance would be here on the western side, opposite the 900 wing. There's a bus loop, a passenger or car passenger drop-off loop, a drive that leads to this parking area and back, and service is from the back side. So this would be the new front of the building, very prominent as you come up Monteith Drive and look to the right. The 1928 building in this diagram is shown here. I want to remind the committee that our cost estimate calls for the demolition of this building. So a couple of referendum questions could be, perhaps voters would like to renovate the 1928 building for future use, or perhaps mothball it and save it. But there's a cost associated with that. I'll explain that in a couple of minutes. The 900 wing, remember, is for central office location, as well as renovation of the locker areas in order to provide Title IX for women's athletic events. And that is the perfect location for both men's and women's locker rooms. Remember, we have some exterior views. One is from the front, from this view. Another view is along this passage between the new building and the 900 wing. Another view I'll show you in a moment is alongside here between the new building and the neighbors. And remember, this is an emergency access drive only. It would be blocked off at each end of this drive. And then the last rendering is a view from the side entrance here. So again, front entrance, the side alongside the new building and the 900 wing. Along the eastern side. I guess that's it. This is the basic configuration of the building. Remember, we have the main atrium space running north-south. We have the cross east-west space with a cafeteria or commons area located here. We have 3-story building blocks for the learning communities, classrooms. We have a 2-story building block for tech and art. Then we have a gymnasium, which is a divisible gymnasium with a motorized partition, maybe, if bidding is favorable. And then we have an auditorium on the opposite side of this cafeteria commons, which functions as a lobby, breakout space, and so on. And then theater and music is immediately adjacent to the auditorium, quite unlike your existing building. Some interior views. Remember the cafeteria commons, floor plan of the 900 wing, which shows the central office is being reconfigured in the existing building. And then we have some discussion about learning communities, diagrams of the learning community clusters. And then we have here some cost information. Okay, this is a recap of where we were initially. So we had independent cost estimates done. This shows the cost that was prepared, the $120.6 million. After you subtract state reimbursement, net cost to town was $114 million. And then in February, the town council said, wait a minute, we want you to target 105 to 110 million. We said, okay. And so we looked at some cost reductions. And we were able to reduce it down to 108.5, but after further discussion with the committee, we had to make an adjustment. And so by May, we were in this range, still below the 110, according to the target that the town council presented to the committee. Now, there are some things that were eliminated from the project, like mothballing the 1928 building. The net cost to the town, if you were to mothball the 1928 building, is a little over $1 million. Remember that the base cost already includes its demolition. So we would obviously save on demolition, but then we would have to add back mothballing the building, which would require a significant amount of work, as you can see, about $1 million. Another item or another strategy is to renovate the 1928 building and then save it for other uses. I'm not sure what those uses would be, but again, we would not have to spend the demolition costs, but we would have to add back quite a bit of renovation work, almost $10 million, as you can see. There was some discussion about a softball field potentially being added. Again, we excluded that from the base project. It could be added, but if that's a decision that's to be made. Remember, we're demolishing the 1928 building. We could reconfigure the parking and the athletic field, the baseball field that's slated in that area, as well as the tennis courts that we would be rebuilding. We could certainly add a softball field if the 1928 building were removed. But at the moment, that's not in the budget. So if you want to add that, that's something that you should consider. And then there was discussion about adding some energy saving features. Maybe there should be a net zero effort net zero energy effort on the project. All of those things are great. They do cost money, and there is a payback eventually, but they do cost money up front. So this is an either or scenario. We either add some additional energy saving initiatives. Those kinds of things would be ice storage, for example, different kinds of mechanical systems. A net zero physical plant would add geothermal, perhaps, photovoltaic panels on the project. So those would add money. Route 4 improvements, Route 4 improvements are not required to build building. They're not required to meet the educational specifications. Are they desirable? From some people's perspective, yes, it would be desirable. But it would be all entirely ineligible. It would be all costs that would have to be borne by the town. So maybe there could be other funding sources, but the state Office of School Construction and Review would say, go ahead and do it, but it has nothing to do with the school project. That's a question that should be posed to voters, perhaps. So there's a cost associated with that. I heard Jay Tulin talk about a third-party review of ADA compliance. That is certainly something that could be done. I think that is just folded into the project costs already. This budget number is just a number based upon my past experiences. It's not a quote from anybody. That should be done separately when the project proceeds, but that certainly could be done. And it should be included as part of the project budget. And then we had some cost reduction for furniture and equipment. This went back and forth. We cut back quite a bit, and then we put some back in. And so this is an item that we felt could be subtracted from the FF&E budget that was originally presented. Could you add it back in? Sure. Those could be add alternates. And add alternates are items that could be added to a project if bidding is favorable. So potential add alternates are 1, 2, and 8. If you add those up, they're roughly $1 million. That could be folded into the plans and specs. It could be a bid out, and then if bidding is favorable, you can certainly add them back in. So that's where we left things. And then during pause, I was asked, well, has there been an impact on construction costs due to COVID-19? And there has been an impact. It actually has, there's been an increase in bidding activity and a decrease in costs. Bids have been coming in below our estimates. And so I tried to represent in this diagram what's been going on. The red line represents the cost of escalation. And typically over the past 20 years, that cost of escalation in construction has been between 3 and 4%. And so that's what this line represents. If COVID hadn't happened, if no other circumstances happened, we would expect that to continue along that rate. The cost estimates that were presented to you last year had built in that escalation rate. And remember, we had talked about going to referendum last November. So there's been a delay there. So should that escalation cost be added back in? I'm not so sure. Depends upon the impact this COVID will have on long term and the timing of the referendum. So right now we see this dip in the cost, just based upon recent experience. How long will this last? It could last a fair amount of time, given what's been going on. And I just cannot predict how long it will last. This is similar to the dip that you see when there are other kinds of impacts on the marketplace. Every time there's a natural disaster, there's an impact on the cost of material. Tariffs, wars, there's an impact. Major recessions, back in 2008, 2007, 2008, there was a dip similar to this, but there's always a bounce back. And that's one of the mysteries going forward. When is this going to bounce back? Is the COVID phenomena going to continue for a long period of time, or are you going to get a bounce back quickly? So I'm not sure when this will bounce back. It will bounce back at some time. I think that what we should say to the town council is that we have seen favorable bidding as a result of COVID-19. But we also know that the project has been delayed, probably 6 months at the least, because I think you're going to go out to referendum, I think, in the early part of this year. So based upon our construction cost, a 6-month delay is about $2 million. A 12-month delay is about $4 million. Now remember, we were told by the town council to reduce our cost by roughly $4 million. So it may be prudent to go back to the town council and say, we have done our best to bring the project back within the range that you gave us, but we would request that you consider or reconsider that charge to the committee. Why? Because I think it would be wise to have a little bit more contingency going forward. I don't know if the bidding will occur when this spikes back up again. So let's have a little safety, margin of safety. That doesn't mean that the building committee should go ahead and spend that money. It means that perhaps the committee should be given a little bit more latitude in its contingency. And then if the bidding is in fact continues to be favorable, you don't have to spend that money. You will return it to the town. But if in fact, due to no one's fault, this is nobody's fault, this phenomenon, if in fact the bidding does spike up, then at least the building committee will have the ability to afford that increase in cost without negatively impacting the project scope. That's why I said in the beginning, when this report is presented to the town council, I would suggest that the committee make that recommendation to the town council. So that brings us to the conclusion of this updated schematic report. I'd be happy to answer any questions or go back to any particular page.
I'm going to open it up for questions from the committee for Richard.
Richard, do you have a timeline of how long you think will be, after we start to move into design development, how long will we be in that?
How long will be in design?
Yeah.
I believe we were projecting about a year.
A year, okay.
So on the line with us this evening is Michael Scott, who's been working with me. And I'm doing this from memory. I believe that's correct, Michael, right?
Yeah, so far everything you've said, spot on.
Are you including design and construction documents in that year, or just the design phase of this being a year?
No, I'm including construction documents.
Okay, that's, yeah.
So that you raise a good point, though. You raise a very good question. So assuming that the public votes yes, is the town prepared to start spending money for that effort? Or are you going to wait until a later date? I mean, time is money on this. It's a significant amount of cost every month that you can shave off of the duration of preparing plans and specs, the better off you are in the long run. So if you if there's a 6-month delay, I mean, remember we talked about going to referendum last November. If it's now 6 months later, you have a couple of $1 million to catch up on. Previously we had a year built into the timeline. I'm not sure that we can shorten that, quite frankly. We'd still have a year. So that still puts us 6 months out.
Right. Richard, you may just want to remind us, the committee, that just because the referendum may be affirmatively voted as early as the first part of this year, the state legislature will not meet and approve the grant list until late summer. So depending on what the town wants to do, some towns jump immediately in order to avail themselves of time, and others wait until the grant list is approved.
That's correct. And maybe this is something that's CSG can weigh in on as well. The grant application has to be filed. Typically, they take until the fall to come up with the grant list, but it isn't until the following year that the legislature actually acts on those requisitions.
Right, and we've had all those conversations. This is Chris with CSG. We've had those conversations with Kat and Kathy from the town, as well as finance, and we're working through that stuff. So it's a little bit, I don't know if premature is the right word, but it's you know, we're just being that we're just now re-engaging. we need to re-engage those conversations with finance to figure out what those impacts are. So I think that's a little early to start talking about them now.
So in what I'm hearing, is there the potential that we would wait before entering into design documents until perhaps after the legislature reviews our grant applications, and that they may not go.
Michael, that's a timing question that I've mentioned several times, and we're still trying to weigh that out. Fortunately and unfortunately with this project, we've done a lot of the upfront legwork. So the second that we are able to proceed, we can proceed in earnest with real documentation. We can start with design development immediately. We don't have to wait for another selection process. This isn't, again, this whole process isn't necessarily conventional with a school construction process, and we don't have to go through all of the selections of architect, CM, owner's rep, which typically takes, I'll call it 3 to 5 months, which is usually that lag time between priority list December 15th and May-ish, you know, when you have all of your when you have your design team selected and you actually start the work. We are fortunate in that we can start it as soon as we are authorized to. However, there's an expense that's associated with that. So we just need to play that out with finance and the rest of the town. So we're not saying no, but there's also other factors. It also depends on really when the referendum is going to take place. So there's still a lot of questions that have to be answered, and the schedule just needs to be vetted.
Do you think that we'd have an outline, Meg, around what we'd request of town council when we go back and present these schematic drawings?
I think if I'm understanding the impacts and kind of how this conversation is going, I think that's important for information for us to share and what the options are, meaning if we do go right into design and documentation, this is what it means. And if we don't, this is what it means. And I think if we can outline those two things very clearly and help town council, give them the appropriate information to make a smart choice around that. I think that's the best we can do right now with that, if I'm understanding the conversation correctly. Please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's probably our best option. But I do agree with you, Michael, for that 26th meeting. That's something that needs to be part of the conversation, or at least a consideration.
Meg, this is Richard. Yes, I agree with that. We can paint two scenarios.
Yeah.
An early design and a late design.
And I think, as you say, in that late design, Richard, you're really pushing the costs associated with the project further out, and yet you move sooner rather than waiting for other sort of normal sequential things. You might assume a risk of and what happens if it isn't supported yet. On some level, I think there's a design here that you've got that we've vetted pretty well, and I guess I would lean towards supporting an earlier launch of design development so that we can, I'm hearing Chris say, we've got to move quickly now, and I think, well, we're not going to move quickly if we submit these schematic designs and then say, well, we'll see you again in this after the summertime or in the fall. That's not quick.
Right. So I think that at the earliest you should start is after the referendum. Once you know that you have local support. You don't have the grant commitment yet, but the reimbursement rate, hate to say it, is relatively low compared to other places. But Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, or Mark, you haven't seen changes in the estimated reimbursement rates for other municipalities and towns. So I think we were talking about a 20% rate here. I'm not sure there's a reason to say that it's going to be that different.
Correct. Yeah, no, I have not seen a change or even a spike in the reimbursement rates. No, there hasn't been any of that in any of the municipalities I've been involved with. Michael, it really just it just comes down to timing. I think we haven't settled on, council just authorized or released us to kind of re-engage. I think we just need we need to fully vet this, I think, and play it out and understand what it really means, when we're really going to have the referendum, and then what that means in terms of an overall cost impact to the town, with relation to the reimbursement that is going to be potentially received from the state.
Yeah, and Michael, from my perspective, I don't want to say that we're trying to rush this. My goal is that there's support at the council, but the point is we have to work collaboratively between the commission and the council, the committee and the council, that we're making the best real-time decisions on all the available information and walking, hand in hand to make this work as best we can. I mean, I don't want to say, we're going to have this up at the January meeting, then the February meeting, it's going to referendum in April. I mean, we are going to work collaboratively together as a council and this committee to make sure we're making the best decisions that push this project forward on the best timetable as possible.
Right. It just, we just need to further develop this conversation, the schedule and the timeline, to really understand what it all means. That's all. And that'll happen in the next, month or two. We just don't have all of those answers right now. So it's not that we can't answer it. We haven't had those conversations yet, to be completely frank.
Right. And ultimately, Chris, this is Michael from TSKP, but ultimately, presenting a couple of scenarios is probably the best option. I would just like to zoom out and just say that everything that TSKP is attempting to report here is good news. I mean, we could, when we went on pause, we really didn't know what was going to happen with the market. There was, potentially there could have been a scarcity of materials as production lines had to shut down. Prices for common materials could have spiked, or conversely, the cost of operating a socially distant and safe construction site could put just, general conditions through the roof. And instead of a 10% deduction in building buildings, we could have very easily been looking at something, an expense, and having to talk to the committee about building less building in order to meet the town council mandate. So it's all good news. And when you show a curve like is on the screen right now, perhaps the only thing you risk is that everyone wants to rush and try to hit that dip in the blue line before the spike in the blue line occurs. And that's maybe the cart is putting the cart before the horse. We have to get this thing through referendum. And I think the message to the town and to the town council is COVID has had an immediate favorable impact on municipalities trying to build projects such as this. And we believe that the sooner you can get to the market, the better. But we're not immediately saying, you've got to build 20% less building in order to meet your budget target. Okay.
I think that was a good way to put it, Michael, because I think, we can certainly, as we're thinking about collecting the information, what, in that partnership with town council, I think one of the things we can be really helpful with is even just kind of that risk analysis. We can't solve the problems, but we can let you know what we know right now and things we need to consider. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have CSG with us. It's one of the reasons why we have TSKP with us, partners that can help us, because they've done this before. They've managed through risk. They've managed the past year of other building projects and trying to figure out, where you pivot, how you manage, and how you get through these kind of things. And I think the best we can do is say, here's the work that we know is the right solution, and here's what's included. Let us help you understand the context of what's happening around us, and those things could certainly have an impact, but as Michael just said, anything could really have an impact as we move forward. So I think if we can really focus on what we were charged with, which is a solution that meets the needs, and I think even exceeds the needs at this point, when we kind of reevaluated that design, it steps you back a minute and really look at the work effort and really how comprehensive that solution is, not only for a year ago, but even where we are today. So things like, wider hallways and better ventilation and all the things that are actually really above and beyond what we were even charged to do. So I think putting all those things in context and saying, yeah, we know there's risks, but we can certainly put those out there, and we know we need to mitigate those. But we think this is the best solution. This is what we know right now. These are the costs. This is what the range is, and here's everything you guys need to make a real sound decision based on the need for the town and for the school.
Right.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that? It's tough. This is tough because, again, we're still confronted with unknowns. And they just seem so much more visible to us now. There's always been unknowns. Think we would never know what happened in a project, just like with any project. But I think we're in a good place. We're in a good place now. Any other thoughts or questions? No? All right. So So we're going to go right into new business at this point. So we have 4 items included in new business. The very first item is a motion to approve. And right now our agenda item actually says the attached schematic design report. I'm actually going to change that wording a little bit to amended. You will receive the amended version of the schematic design in the minute packet, or the minutes when they get sent out. This was really just formatting and some of the documentation we just heard tonight for a little bit more detail, and kind of taking some blank pages out and things like that. So I don't want anybody to think we're sneaking anything in there that nobody's seen, but we just had to make some last minute changes. So really what we'd be proving is the presentation that Richard just walked through with us as far as the schematic design report is concerned. So we need to put a motion on the table for our committee to approve the amended schematic design as it states right now, created by TSKP Studio. I get a motion for that?
I'll the motion, Chris.
I'll second it, Sharon.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I like the little voice in approval.
I know, dude. He's got 5 kids over there. They all could have voted in favor.
There's extra votes there. Yeah. All opposed? Okay, all right, unanimously approved. So the amended version that will be included in the minute package is the document that we just approved as a committee. So just to make sure that we have all those details determined. And we will talk about next steps and what's going to happen next once we get to item 4. But we needed to get the kind of that last final piece of schematic design business out of the way. Next item is something I want to take a few minutes to talk about. And this is to create a Farmington High School Building Committee mission or purpose statement. So this kind of comes out of our communication efforts that we've been working on, the development of the new website. This is not anything that this is really kind of just recentering us. I think as a committee, it's a kind of a good exercise that I'm going to ask Mark to help us walk through. Just a discussion, maybe 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes on kind of a purpose statement, what we're using it for, and think a little bit more about what our purpose is to help kind of center us a little bit as we come off pause.
Right. Thanks, Meg. So as Meg had stated, these were conversations that came out of the communications committee. We sort of kicked around as we were working on the website design that it would be great to have some sort of statement that would be front and center when you first open up the website. And we talked a little bit about what the criteria of that purpose statement would be. Would it be a mission? Is it a purpose? And we kind of played around with that a little bit. And how far out did we want to go? Did we want to do a real mission, vision, all of that? And so we felt that, and in even further discussions with Ira sort of leading us through this process, that we wanted to include some criteria here where we would define sort of a broad purpose that this project aims to achieve, and also something that would help the committee select strategies and solutions that would really stay within the original intent of the project. So so make sure we don't go too broad, that we're going beyond our scope and the intent of the project. I think another criteria that we might want to add to this is really ensure that it represents a universal purpose or mission that's shared by town council, that the Board of Ed can stand behind and the building committee can stand behind. So we, Ira and I had those kind of conversations as we're sort of massaging through this, and I think that would be a good third criteria as we talk about what that purpose statement should represent. Next slide. So looked at some of the folks had shared some of our partners' statements, and if you look quickly, we've got the town of Farmington's vision statement here, where Farmington will be recognized as a historic and progressive town with an engaged citizenry committed to the betterment of the entire community. To that end, high quality services will be provided to a diverse population living and working in balanced blend of open space, residential housing, and commercial properties supported by stable and equitable revenues. We have the Farmington Public Schools mission, which states that the mission of the Farmington Public Schools is to enable all students to achieve academic and personal excellence, exhibit persistent effort, and live as resourceful, inquiring, and contributing global citizens. And lastly, we pulled up the Farmington High School mission, where it identifies Farmington High School graduates will acquire an understanding of the essential knowledge and skills in the core academic disciplines and develop the thinking and learning skills necessary to meet the challenges of local, national, and global citizenship in a rapidly changing world. So it's a lot in these three statements. And so we were thinking in terms of a high school and the building committee's purpose and statement, how could we sort of bring some things together? What's our real purpose and charge? And what could we identify that all, town council, board of ed, and building could really stand behind? Next slide. So we put a few thoughts as a starting place. And these are really broad strokes, some more involved than others, but just going to read through these three really quick. And then maybe we can have some quick discussion and see if this is something we want to continue to move on with. So first, and this is more of a building committee, would be to present the voters of the town of Farmington a new high school building plan that meets the educational program set forth by the school committee for the students of today and for future generations. So that's one of them. The second is to present the voters of the town of Farmington with an appropriate and necessary high school plan that incorporates the statement of needs while meeting the program specifications set forth by the Board of Ed. And then I think, we want to integrate the statement of needs in there. That's more building committee specific. And then the last one is, I actually like this one: support educational and community growth through progressive, efficient, and safe building design. So these were just three simple options that we put together as a discussion starting point, and was hoping to get some feedback from the committee tonight.
Well, I'm in favor of number 3 because it incorporates the community aspect of it, not just the educational. And I think that's going to be important going forward. So whether that's the final form of it, I like that theoretical approach to the mission statement.
This is Ellen. I also like the one-liner because it grabs you. I think if it's too long, we'll lose people. So I think that one is good, and I like a one-liner.
Thanks, Ellen. Yeah, we looked at a lot of different mission statements, and when we present to different groups, and we talk about mission statements, and I ask individuals of if you're working for a company that has a mission statement, and I say, does your company have a mission statement? Yes. Can you recite it? Almost never can I get anybody to recite the full mission statement of whatever their organization is. And so unless it's something that's short and memorable, like number 3.
This is Wendy, and I'm actually going to agree. I like the third one, and I think the key word that really gets me is support. Whereas like the first two, it says we're presenting to the town, to the voters, and I feel like we're doing more than just presenting. We're supporting this entire process and working together as a community. So that's where number 3 kind of jumps out for me.
Thank you.
And I think too, Mark, maybe like a combination, like if we had 3 and, in conjunction with an understanding that we really do have a legitimate charge that I think we can also, state in a different way. Even I think the first two even kind of get closer to our charge,
Right.
what we are asked to do, which is an important part of what our committee does. So maybe it's almost like, two, they hold different meaning, but maybe the two together in some way is a good way to present it.
Yeah, this is Ellen. Sorry, just one more thing. I'm also uncomfortable using the word voter because while this project is dependent on voters, we have many members of our community that can't vote, and we want to make sure that there's a feeling that this is for them also.
Thank you. Good comment. I think even at our last committee meeting, we talked about changing that to resident or home. I think we started with homeowner, and so there were some other words that we had tried to put in place.
Mark and Meg, the way I'm reading it, I think they can play out all three. I agree it should be community members instead of that, but you can treat the third one as your goal and the other two as objectives. So you can see the goal is, to as in terms of your third statement there, and the other two you probably can combine together or separate them, and so present to the community, community members of the town of Farmington, and treat support instead of looking at mission, because you got already 3 missions. When I'm looking at what you're presenting, Mark,
Yes.
I don't think you can break those missions. We can probably put them in the website and saying these are the missions of the town, the high school, and the school district. But I think combining this and saying supporting educational, I would add programming. Kathleen, do you look at it as supporting educational growth or educational programming? I don't know if she can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Finally, yeah. So I think with you're saying educational programming, but it does include community. So I would say in the context of also using community in there, growth works because you're combining those. I wonder if it was to advance educational and community growth through a progressive, efficient, and safe high school building design, something like that. Just to be specific that it is the high school.
Could you repeat it again, Kathy?
To advance educational and community growth through a progressive, efficient, and safe high school building design.
Yeah.
Do you say new building design to indicate that it's this new building project choice that we have?
And we could put Farmington High School building, it's just because Farmington isn't within that statement.
Yeah.
How about, this is Beth, how about somewhere support educational and community growth or advance, however you're going to word that, in Farmington through a progressive, efficient, and safe building design?
High school, maybe.
For the high school or high school building? New
I like
high school building design?
Mm-hmm. So let's see. And Kathy, you were saying actually put Farmington High School in there.
I think Beth had put Farmington prior, to that sentence. So to advance educational and community growth in Farmington, if I'm right, Beth.
If that's what people, just throwing it out there.
Through a progressive, efficient, and safe high school project or high school building design. I'm not sure.
I got you. Right. Instead of built, right. An efficient and safe
high school facility.
high school facility, high school, yeah. High school space.
You just say high school,
High school.
safe high school. That's the goal. That statement's a goal.
So to advance educational and community growth through progressive, efficient, and safe
A safe high school
design.
high school facility. See, if it's the way it reads right now is that it's assuming that we're going to have the design we're doing, or we treat this as a finite statement.
Right.
You know, one is like in progress, the other is the goal. I would look at this as the goal. Isn't the goal is the end goal here would be, you know, have a safe and secure, I guess, high school facility.
Right. So the word, so I'm taking the word through and the last word design, right? So it's through design. Through high school doesn't make sense to me. So
No, at the end it would a safe high school building or safe high school facility.
all right, I think we're close.
Yeah. And we probably could fiddle this a little bit in the subcommittee next week and come back with you guys.
That's a great idea. So I think this the new business was to discuss, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Not to approve. Okay.
Because to create, which I think creating is what we did. But we don't need to approve it. If that's
any other comments? Or I think if anybody thinks of this or has some other thoughts, can always forward to the communications committee.
excellent. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
I think it's always good just to kind of take a step back and think about our partnerships and how we relate back, and always good to look at your purpose and goals. Okay, so then we're going to move right on to item number 3, and that is to approve the attached 2021 Farmington High School Building Committee meeting schedule. If I could get a motion to do so.
A motion, Chris.
Wait a second.
I'll second it, Sharon.
All right, any discussion? I just have a few things, so just note please that obviously we have this one meeting in January. We'll talk about some of the supplementals in the next agenda item, but notice we do go back to meeting twice every month, starting in February now that we are off pause, so please take note of that in your scheduling. We are scheduled through the end of the year. Let's see what happens and what that means, but it's a lot easier to schedule than schedule and take off than it is to schedule. So we have it out there. Please get these on your calendar. Again, 6:30 meeting time right now via Zoom. We've also put on there FHS Library. If we are in person, we have heard nothing around that yet, but you know, certainly let's hope that there will be a time when we will be in the room together again. And have these conversations in person, but that decision has not been made as of yet.
Meg, just not that it's a meeting of the building committee, but the February 16th meeting we approved last night is, you know, to the extent that we're publishing these and people, community involvement and interest in attending meetings. I don't know if we want to reflect that on here at all.
Is that something, Devin, we can add just as a special meeting?
If I can throw that on and include that in the minutes.
Perfect. All right, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, unanimously approved. Final item in new business is to review the project timeline and next steps. I'm going to actually throw this over to Kat to kind of go over what our next month or so looks like, and then we will obviously be doing additional planning beyond that point. But Kat can walk us through what it's going to look like in the next month.
Yep, so just kind of high level next steps. We're kind of definitely hitting the ground running here in January. So we will have a presentation to the Board of Education on the schematic design and project cost estimate. Show them, where we landed. We had done some presentations with them in the past, but I think it's important to show them where we are and kind of give an overview of the proposed project. So that's going to be at their meeting on the 25th. The same for town council. They've invited us to come give the schematic design and project cost estimate as they had last talked to us probably about a year ago when they set the project scope and the net municipal cost. So it's good to go back to them and show them where we are. Same with town planning and zoning. At the end of our kind of duties, we have to get an informal review from them. We did go to them, I believe it was in March. It was a long time ago, April maybe, and show them the project. But it's also important to keep providing updates to the bodies where we need approval from so that they are informed and part of the process with us. They have a meeting scheduled for the 8th. We do have a new town planner coming on, so I'm just going to check with them to make sure that we don't overwhelm them with one of their first meetings. So that's a tentative date for them right now, but we are aiming to go back to them in February. And then, as Chris just mentioned, we do have the special town council meeting on February 16th. That is where Ira from Tall Timbers will be giving a report on the survey results from the newsletter. The newsletter results are supposed to come to us by February 8th. So that will give him time to review and analyze and go to town council with those results. And then at that meeting, we're hopeful that they will set the referendum timeline for us. So we have an idea of forward next. So that's kind of a general overview of where we're heading.
Hey, Kat, just quickly, are any of these in person? Everybody is Zoom right now?
Kathy, our Board of Ed meetings, Zoom, in person, what have you guys been doing?
Hybrid, so whoever can make it in person comes in person, and we also have the option of the community viewing virtually or in person. Same with the board, virtually or in person.
Okay.
Yep, and town council meetings have, over the past couple months, it's changed. We have done some hybrid, same where the council's in person and attendees are online. Our last town council meeting last night was all online. So that'll be posted as to what that meeting will be. I think it's kind of dependent on how things are looking. And TPZ has been online.
Okay. And start times for everybody's about the same?
7 o'clock for all of them, I believe.
Okay.
But we'll be here to give all that information, as we move closer.
Okay.
We'll distribute the agendas. We'll make sure that people are aware of what's going on and where and how to access that meeting.
Excellent. Yeah, I would, just to give some guidance on this, I know everybody's schedules are crazy. There's a lot going on. But from my perspective, when we look at these, I obviously encourage as much committee participation as there can be at these meetings. I think the critical ones for us as a committee are obviously the 25th presentation and as well as the February 16th special town council meeting. The other two certainly, did I say the right date, 26th? I'm not sure what I just said. Presentation to town council on the 26th and the 2/16 meeting to town council as well. So those are really kind of the critical ones, I think, for the committee. But again, I recommend, participation if you can as committee members in the other meetings as well, just so you can hear feedback and conversations and community feedback as well during the other meetings. All right, any other questions on this or conversation? Okay. All right, well, that is the end of our agenda items. Our next item is adjournment. I just want to wish everybody a very happy new year. Thank you for joining us. This is kind of our next step moving forward. So hopefully everybody's re-energized. I think we're refocused, and we've got a busy month ahead of us, but I think a lot to look forward to. So again, as always, I appreciate your participation and your commitment to this project. This has been much longer, I think, than any of us anticipated it being. But again, I think we're doing great work here, and doing the best thing we can for community and for the students. So again, thank you again. I can't thank you enough for your volunteer service and what you've provided. So again, Happy New Year, and I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion, it's Chris.
Second, Johnny.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, unanimously approved, adjourned at 8:06.